Right, as beautiful as the music is, that's probably enough for now. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Logos Circle online. Fun little announcement coming later, but in the meantime, hand over to Sterling and then hear about all the good work that's being done by all the circles around the world.
Hello there, friends. Welcome to another Logo Circles. So happy to be here. Always happy to be here, right? And I don't know that I would want to be anywhere else. Cool. Well, so let me get started with the usual disclaimers, my friends, and we're going to go through just like last time and every other time. We're going to have all the brilliant updates from around the world with regard to Logo Circles and this growing movement or growing initiative. So without further ado, let's get rocking and rolling, my friends. So the first thing, disclaimers. Any of the ideas, thoughts, philosophies, or aberrant notions that we share within this space are the products of our own minds and are not associated with the Logos brand identity or movement. You mention any kind of projects, any kind of cryptocurrencies. This is nothing that we say here is to be taken as financial advice. Please ape into your shitcoin or YOLO into your shitcoin at your own peril. The other piece of the puzzle is that this is a community space, right? We're going to provide updates from the circles leads, but we definitely invite you to come up at any time and engage in the conversation. This is doubly true if you are interested in booting up your own logo circle space, but it is also true if you just want to wax poetic and philosophical with us for some time, because we have a tendency to do that. I do also want to mention these spaces at times can get a bit more heady, but that is a little expected. Our audience definitely, I would say, is of the brighter bunch. So thank you for all being here. Without further ado, let's also get into the spaces or the circles updates, because I know that we have a lot coming down the pipeline. I believe we might even have an announcement today. So cool. Well, welcome to the stage, everyone. We have currently up here Amelia. I think we have Chair in the room. We're going to get Chair up here, and we'll go ahead and get started. Since Amelia's here, we'll go ahead and start with you, my friend. You are the lucky pick, and yeah, let's get rocking and rolling.
I heard the lucky pig, like the prize pig first on the chopping block, as you like to say. Yeah, so I will share some updates from how the Lisbon Circle is going. We have our February edition of the Lisbon Circle happening tomorrow at Well Read Bookshop. So yeah, I there's a lot of people registered this time, like 30 people. So I think it's going to be a big one. And we're using this circle session to prepare for a volunteer day that we're holding the week of Parallel Society, which is, of course, the 2-day festival that we are running in Lisbon in March 6th and 7th. So, as probably everyone here knows, we've been working for about 6 months now with the community of Quinta de Mocho, social housing community, and looking at different ways we can help them, yeah, just kind of support the initiatives that they already had going on in their community, and just bringing on the Logo Circle as volunteers to help get some things done. And one thing that the community has been wanting to do is planting a urban garden in Quinta de Mocho. So there's quite a lot of empty grass space in Mocho, and we have, as of today, made a formal proposal to the Freguesia, so the local government in Quinta de Mocho, to use quite a large space that's just, it's a little bit dirty. We need to kind of clean it up. But yeah, we've made a proposal to work with Hortelas Comunitarios, which is a local organization that helps plant these kind of urban farms. And we're just waiting to hear back from them. But if all goes ahead as we planned, on March 9th, after Parallel Society, we'll kind of go there as a squad, as a circle. Anyone else who's attending Parallel Society and sticking around in Lisbon can come with us. And with kind of working with this organization, they'll hopefully bring the skills circles, because I don't really know much about planting myself, growing a farm, but I think this is good practical skills that will help all of us. Is good, interesting, and valuable to learn. And it actually, in this community space that we helped Kinta get, there's a kitchen in there, an industrial kitchen. So the idea is kind of we can help plant this farm, create some sustainable food growth for them, and then use that industrial kitchen to like do hot breakfast days and cook for the community there. And the community obviously kind of using that and running that, and then we just support them as a circle. So yeah, I was super excited to kind of plan that out and see what skills, what gardening and farming skills we have in the logo circle that's happening tomorrow.
Sweet. Thanks, Amelia. Before I let Chair go, I'm going to throw a wrench in the gears for just a moment. Maybe we can just take a little bit of a different, not really a different trajectory, but I do notice that there are several new faces in the crowd today. So I thought it might be good for us to break down what logo circles actually are. I do feel like sometimes we get on a roll with our updates and we're talking about it, but maybe there's new people in who really have no fucking clue what we're really getting at. I mean, I think they can probably paint a picture from the context, but let's break it down. I'll start, and then Amelia, if you have some thoughts as well, you can share, and then Chair can do his updates after that. And if we have any coming, but maybe she's just going to be running a tad late. Cool. So I'll get started. So guys, let's talk about the purpose of this particular space and the purpose of logo circles. So logo circles, this is good as I get to get my reps in, right? We all have to get our reps in. Logo Circles is a grassroots movement initiative where Logos is working to empower local communities to solve a particular issue in those communities. The idea at the center of Logo Circles is that our governance institutions worldwide have abysmally and completely and irrevocably died, right? Governance is failing across the board, and it has created this cascade effect of a number of different issues that have manifested as a result of that failure. So when we get together in a community, what the goal here is that we take agency, we take it upon ourselves to look at these local issues, try to discover them, no matter how small, quote unquote, it seems, or how large. If it's an issue that people are passionate about, that they see as something that could be remedied from local initiatives and local action, then they come together and they can work that. And what Logos does, of course, is we help provide the resourcing, we help provide people power, technology power to enable these communities to tackle and to solve these local issues. Now, there's another component of this that we talk about that is written in our documentation and that I personally really love to speak on. And it's this idea that we're also embedded in what John Vervaeke has referred to as a meaning crisis or a crisis of meaning. The rates of suicidality, right, along with rates of mental health conditions, depression, anxiety, even various forms of schizophrenia and psychoticism are all on the rise, regardless of the psychiatric industrial complex and its medications. All of these issues are still on the rise, and it's created a scenario where more people feel isolated and alienated and unwell than ever. And so, what these communities also do is help reconnect people, reground people within the context of their communities. It gives them an opportunity not only to touch grass, but also to connect with their fellows and regain a sense of connection and regain a sense of purpose. And that's something that has really been missing, not only from just our world, but as we've spun up all these technologically centered communities in Web3, I think that there's still that lack of connection and that feeling of needing purpose. And this is also why we see in Web3 and these blockchain communities, these specialized communities with their own idiosyncrasies, with their own focus and their own direction and their own memetics and their own cultures. But we're taking it a step further and saying, hey, we have these communities, let's have some agency, let's solve a problem, but let's also build a very strong community with very strong bonds while we're at it. So I hope I was able to capture most of it there. Amelia, what do you think?
Yeah, you've exactly got it. It's this idea of us, instead of kind of passively accepting broken or rigged institutions, we kind of stand together in these circles and look to build in that space between the services that that existing traditional institutions and governments should be providing, and the reality of the situation. And kind of through doing that is this idea of rediscovering a new civic life in this era where everything's kind of broken down, as Sterling has said, and people are super isolated. There's huge mental health crises. And circles in themselves become these kind of open space for meeting people and rebuilding relationships. And yeah, so with circles, we organize around, I know you don't like this term, Sterling, and you're right, it's kind of lame, but winnable issues. So the idea is there are issues that exist in the local community of the circle they're being held in, but they're winnable in the sense that there's a clear start and finish to that issue. So circles are essentially groups of activists that are aligned with Logos values. So we believe in people's right to privacy. We believe in decentralized open source technologies. And yeah, they're completely volunteer run groups. So we find things that directly impact the people and communities in these circles, and we see how we can fix them. And the idea of doing it in this way where each issue is broken down into something that's clear and achievable and you can do it as a group is that it keeps momentum going and it keeps people kind of motivated and able to see the difference and see the impact before and after that issue is being worked on. And so, yeah, who is creating an urban garden in Quinta de Mocho. We previously have worked on issues that were helping the community of Quinta de Mocho get a community third space from the local government that was successful. We're also creating a short film with the Quinta de Mocho community that will show a parallel society that kind of tells the story of some of the challenges that people in the neighborhood face, what happens if nothing changes, and what happens if they kind of keep building on this community power, right? This community empowerment through initiatives such as this urban farm and claiming third spaces to be kind of getting kids off the street, teaching people new skills through workshops, having a hot breakfast day for kids, like all of these initiatives. It's like this is exactly what rebuilding civic life and building a real kind of community with people around you means. So it's been amazing to work with one kind of localized community in Lisbon for so long, because it's yeah, I've just seen some kind of amazing, like inspirational things that they've been doing there. So yeah, that's the kind of the idea of winnable issues as well. And it's yeah, I guess the biggest thing I'm personally working on at Logos right now is helping circles and circle stewards to help uncover what those winnable issues are in their locations. So we have 30 cities running circles right now, which is amazing. And each circle has kind of key local issues that they really care about, and they know the direction they want to go in, but it can be quite difficult to take a huge issue like in London, this issue, not as much of a big issue anymore thankfully in the UK, but of requiring digital IDs online. So it's like, how do you take that from being something that everyone is really impassioned about into something that's small enough that you can deliver on it and achieve it with your circle? So yeah, this has been super interesting to kind of see how we can take those issues and really make something winnable out of it. And I just had such a good call with Parzival, who's running the circle in Enugu, Nigeria, and their circle is really interested in tackling this issue head on of mental health crises in Nigeria. And there's such a significant rate of suicide in their city and in their state. And so this is a huge issue, right? They can't solve the mental health crisis in Enugu, but what we were talking about is maybe going to these existing organizations who are providing mental health services and offering yourselves up as a circle, like, hey, what do you guys need support on? Do you want us to run like the hotline for a day to support? Like, where are these areas that you guys are missing kind of hands on deck? Go and volunteer with them, learn more about what they need. And then kind of the idea for this on the technology side is once you really understand that issue, you're embedded in that issue in those groups, you start to see where the gaps are, where people need more privacy, where this technology is actually useful. And it's a way of then when the logo stack comes fully online, we really know what people need and we can start building it.
Bravo. Well said, Amelia. Yeah, I think in that vein, we covered all of the really salient material. There is one other thing that I want to mention, getting back to the kind of the community aspect of it. and then I'll let Chair open up with his updates. But okay, so there's a book that Jared talks about. Amelia's mentioned it too in some of her chats. It's by Robert D. Putnam, called Bowling Alone. One of the situations that's cropped up especially in the U.S. over the course of the last several decades is that what I call the quote unquote middleware institutions have become highly eroded. These are like the fraternities, the clubs, the religious organizations, various organizations that local communities gathered around, and came to, so that they could solve local problems, so they could also understand what's happening in those communities. Those have largely started to dissolve, and as a result, people are literally bowling alone, right? Like he mentions in the book, the idea of bowling organizations and bowling charters have largely dissolved, and the result of this, of course, is what we're seeing with the meaning crisis, with lack of connection to community. But really, and Amelia mentioned this is what we're trying to build, this idea of having these third spaces, having these spaces where communities can come together, work together, and rebuild what has been lost and eroded. I think there's still some people who the full impact of the erosion of various aspects of our culture hasn't come fully to mind. So I think having the awareness that we're bringing back to culture and community via logos is really critical for rebuilding, generally speaking. Cool. Okay. Yeah, I think we did our spiel here, which is really important for the new folks in the space. Cherry, if you have anything to add, of course, on the philosophy, you're welcome to do that, or just go right into your updates, my friend. Welcome.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Hold on, there's almost definitely an echo. Give me a moment. And if you can't hear it, I can hear it. Okay, hello. Hi, everyone. Well, I would say that specifically the death of fraternities is no sad thing. And I would say more generally, don't ever join a club you can't unjoin. Seriously. Each circle has its own identity based on the composition of those that join. And I had a conversation recently that helped me reset and reinvigorate my perspective on what we're doing in the Los Angeles Circle. February 16th, Monday, February 16th, Los Angeles. Save the date, and I will broadcast and exclaim forth the details very shortly. But I think in discussing what has happened so far and reviewing the Los Angeles Circle progress, we've been able to do some things that are difficult to do, let's say. Certainly, I am very excited about what we have planned. That we have 2 of the snowflake roles that have been discussed. By the way, forum.logos.co, search Los Angeles Circle to find the thread with all of the updates. I'll save that for later. For folks who are looking to contribute technically, or would like to contribute technically, but can't make the actual physical meetings, that's cool too. But we have a growth and a project management snowflake role, volunteers, or 2, rather. So that will help support me and some of my efforts, and help fill in the gaps in some of my deficiencies. For the organization part of things, but we have a very strong group. I am looking forward to growing that group. That's probably where I need the most help. I think Maria, who we met last week, should help with that specifically. Otherwise, collaboration app is what we want to work on. We had a we had a LA online work group session where we got Logos blockchain nodes running locally, or I got it running locally. I think others got it got further than I did. So that was fun. I want to do more of those. I want to do a lot more of those, even a weekly one of those, until we can fully be on the network. All right. That's the LA update until I remember other updates, and we'll interrupt later.
No worries. Thanks a lot, my friend. Cool. So it looks like we have a lot of momentum within the context of circles. I don't know that we have, like I said, Roxana is running a bit late. Amelia, do we have anyone else who's coming up from the circles for today? If not, we can move into a discussion segment. We don't have anything particularly planned for the discussion, so we're going to. Oh, go ahead, Amelia.
Girl is here. Girl has some exciting updates from Porto. If you'd like to join us.
Yep, she just so I'll let her up, and then she can.
Nice. We also have some new circles that have been coming online, just to give them a shout out. If you're in one of these cities, you have a logo circle starting very soon near you. So today is the first circle in Brussels, which is super exciting. I know Frost happened over the weekend, so kind of hoping to grab some of those. Oh, sorry, Frostem. Some of those folks were over there to join that first circle in Brussels. Super exciting. We have this week the first circle in Accra in Ghana, which is another amazing city in Africa that circles are moving into. And later this month, on the 13th, we have the first logo circle happening in Bangkok. So I think that's just the second circle starting in Asia. Yeah, shout out to all the stewards for getting those ones set up.
Nice. Thanks, Amelia. It looks like we have Girl now. Welcome to the stage.
Hi everyone. Yep, so news from Porto. Post our first circle, which we braved the storm for. We've got the second one coming up. I'm proud to announce, or pleased to announce, the second one coming up on the 19th of February. And I loaded it all myself on Luma. That's the pride coming in. I am really just gassed about the quality of the members in Porto. It's really exciting, and I'm feeling a little bit nervous about my contribution. So I've been really going for it and doing lots of stuff, and we're getting and proud to announce that in the venue that we're in the house in Peninsula in Porto, and they've agreed just now that I can put up posters in all the different houses because they've got such a wicked cohort of I don't know if I'm going to say it right, but developers, guys working in blockchain, fintech, privacy, which are all the things that we need, which is great. Yeah, so that's been really good. And then we're just getting ready for going live on Signal, which will be happening next week. And then we've been prepping for Parallel Society, because we're going to try and make a bit of a splash there so we can try and get greater awareness on what's going on with everything to do with the app, to do with the community, and helping survivors mobilize, be safe, and be protected. So that's about it, really. Yeah. Oh, and I've been looking at one of the things that I'm doing at Parallel Society is looking at the importance of Lisbon. And I think it is really interesting because Lisbon's just like a bit of a remix society and always has been. And it's a place where law followed life. So the fact that Parallel Society is going to be there, like, I am hyped for, just because of the historical. The energy is going to be good for us all. Yeah, and that's that. Yeah, got loads of good eggs in Porto, which I think you'll meet when you're there. I feel like a proud mother hen, but you know what I mean? Very excited. So thank you very much, everyone.
Amazing, Girl. Looking forward to meeting you in person as well at the
And
event.
you. Yeah, all of you, in fact, what am I saying? I'm really, really looking forward to it. Like, I get a lot. Just to speak on what you were saying, Sterling. I get such a lot from this community because, from my personal situation, it's quite isolating. And then I just found myself in the wonderful Logos Circle network, and yeah, people have been reaching out and all sorts, and yeah, it's just really powerful. And I have so much hope for the future, and I think that's the vibe that I want to bring. I know everything is a bit chaotically weird and a bit shite, but this gives me hope. This properly gives me hope, and I just feel like we're all in good company. And as we say in England, let's have it, let's do it. So yeah, thank you so much to all of you. Looking forward to meeting you all. Yeah, over and out.
Nice. Love the energy, girl. And you're absolutely 100% correct about the feeling and the vibe of the current situation and status quo worldwide. This is something actually I would be more than happy to pontificate on with you guys here in a moment. But I want to give Amelia a chance to make sure that we don't miss anything or miss anyone before we move on to the discussion segment of the space.
I think we're good. Yeah, no one else is kind of confirmed coming up today, but of course you're welcome. There are some other stewards here. Chino from Buenos Aires, Parzival from Enugu. I gave you a shout out, Parzival. I don't think you were in the space, but I just mentioned our conversation today and in the discussion of winnable issues around mental health. And I was super excited, but no pressure. And Mariana had an interesting circle in Mexico at the People's Reset last week. So also very welcome to come and talk about that. Or Waka from Nairobi is also here. So any of you guys, anytime, just stick your hand up if you want to come on stage.
And by the way, I invited Chino up here to speak. So I do want to mention to anybody that we invite up, this is also part of the disclaimers, and I forget to mention this at the very beginning of the space, but please try to keep any of your comments topical. That should go without saying. We want to add as much value to the community as possible, and we want to make sure that we stay mostly on topic. We are open to the conversation drifting in different directions when we get into the philosophy, and that's perfectly acceptable, especially as it relates to the ideas that are critical to this community and also critical to thinking about how we can move into the future. So I want to welcome Chino to the stage. How are you doing there, my friend? Welcome.
Hey, Sterling. Hey, Amelia. Hey, everyone there. Chino, my actual name is Fran, but okay, everybody in the space knows me as Chino TV. I am currently running the Buenos Aires Circle. But the most important update from our side is that tomorrow we will be hosting the first sorry for that, the first space in Spanish, since we've realized that probably a lot of Spanish speakers or natives aren't quite following this dynamic that is so frequent. So the idea is to tomorrow make a general, to give them a general idea about what Circle is about, what the Logos movement is, what parallel society will be speaking. And as Amelia mentioned, we also invited Marco and some people from Mexico and from the Venezuela diaspora, just to see in Latin America. I think that this is the most important and relevant piece of news that with Maduro being captured, this could be a really good place for all the Venezuelan community that's being expatriated and is everywhere in Latam, to come together, join, and see the way we can help them get back to Venezuela or stay in their new homes, or well, together we can find a solution. I think that it's great for us to have this space, and also to make it also in Spanish, because a lot of people cannot follow it in English.
Thanks so much, Fran. Good to hear your voice again, my friend. I hope everything's been going well. Seems like it has.
Yeah, it has. Well, here we're in the middle of the summer, so everything here in Buenos Aires kind of turned off until probably the end of February, early March. But we're planning ahead some new things. So we're great. Thanks, Sterling.
No problem at all. Cool. All right, we have Mariana who's come up to the stage. By the way, I meant to mention to you guys too. I saw Mariana in the stage. I'm glad Amelia invited her up. She was in Mexico. I was supposed to go to Mexico to be at the People's Reset, especially since I was very involved in the co-collaboration with Derek and getting the sponsorship. But really bad weather and ice storm in Texas foiled my plan, so I wasn't unfortunately able to make it to the event. I had to teleconference in. But luckily, Mariana was very kind to go to the event, show up, represent logo circles. And first of all, I want to express my gratitude for her helping me out as well in doing this teamwork based effort in Mexico. And I think it all worked out really well. So now we get to hear from Mariana about how everything went with a boots on the ground perspective from her in Mexico and with the Mexico circles. This was in Morelia, by the way, guys. Welcome, Mariana. Hello, my friend.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon. Yes, I went to the People's Reset. It was a very good experience. I've never thought I was going to encounter this kind of event because it was, well, a combination of technology, blockchain, cryptocurrencies, privacy, mobile phones, like the cutting edge technology to live with privacy and freedom, right? But at the same time, the conferences and the environment offered like nutritional conferences or how to manage our energy and living in connection with the earth. And the first days I was like, what this has to do with the blockchain, right? But at the end of the event, I realized that everything gets connected at some point. No, if we live in connection with our planet and try to keep it healthy, and our spirit is healthy, then also aligns with living with healthy technologies, right? Those that allow us to um, to express and to live in peace and liberty. So yeah, at the end, I understood what happened there, no? Although at the beginning I was like shocked, like couldn't realize, but yeah. So it is at the end. It's very interesting to see how different approaches to the same core concept, no? Like living in peace and freedom and in harmony with the planet, and do not destroy our planet, and everything started to make sense in my head. And well, I met a lot of people. The circle had 76 attendees, and we had friends from Europe and Canada and the United States and Mexico. And it was like a very, very big group. So, well, we spoke about logos and the logo circles. And it was a very good response from the public. We noticed that, well, I talk about Farewell to Westphalia and the philosophy or the ideas behind supporting all our technology and work. So surprisingly, the 25 persons that downloaded the book. So wow, that was like, whoo, no? I was very happy to hear that from, well, and then also we had a lot of interested people in going to Lisbon for the Parallel Society. And well, we have a couple of contacts that want to activate their circles in their country. So, well, Amelia, I forward them to Amelia to to contact them and activate these new circles. So it was a very, very nice. I met a lot of new contacts, and yeah, it was very, very great experience. I had a good time, and also a wonderful market with all natural organic products like honey, marijuana treatments, and herbal stuff to heal our different illnesses. So it was really, really amazing. I thank Sterling for telling me about this event, and I feel very sad that he couldn't come because of the weather. I wanted to see you there, but well, see you in Lisbon, my friend. Thank you, Sterling, and thank you all.
No, thank you, Mariana, for your work, and yeah, no worries at all. I look forward to seeing you in Lisbon. And by the way, I wanted to also add to what Mariana was saying and contextualize the event. As I think, like you, Mariana, a lot of people in our space, if they went to the People's Reset and just saw the first day of the conference, they would probably be like, "How is this related to anything that we're doing?" So, of course, the big idea behind what Derek is is working on it, and one of the key philosophies that he espouses, the reason he started the People's Reset is because of this notion of exit, right? Or exit ideology or exit philosophy. So he realized right away that the United States was turning into a vast surveillance apparatus with all these biometrics, and and most of most first world countries, UK, US, a lot of Europe, there's CCTV everywhere, there's surveillance of our everyday lives. And what Derek did was he said, "No, I don't really want to deal with this anymore." So he actually upped and left, physically exited the US and moved to Mexico and started an intentional community in Mexico. And by the way, Mexico is like a hotbed, guys, of intentional communities. There's a lot of sporadic communities that emerge in Mexico. Mexico has a very much a more decentralized, quote unquote, state. You have things like the Chiapas, the Zapatistas. You have all these different communities that have spread around Mexico. So it's a really unique admixture of different cultures and communities, and most of them the governance systems, they distrust the banks. So that is kind of built into the culture. And this comes from someone who spent a lot of time in Mexico over the last 15 years. So Derek, yeah, he exited. He said, "No, I don't want to do this anymore," created this community. But he realized that if we're going to exit physically and we're going to be based in these different communities and develop our own local communities, we're going to need more than just know how to use blockchain, right? We have to understand how to work the land, do permaculture, be self-sustaining, take care of the earth, but we also have to know how to do skill sharing. Have to know how to create economic networks. We have to understand how to leverage technology, including blockchain, etc. So he effectively broke the conference down into like three-day, well, it's longer than that, but it's basically 3 days worth of different types of content. The first section of it is based on the land, permaculture, and people working in that space. And then there's a day on agorism and parallel networks, which is largely what we're working on. But then there's a day on tech and blockchain, which is also what we're working on, right? So that's kind of our areas. And this is the third time that we actually sponsored his event and have co-collaborated with Derek. I'm actually trying to figure out how to get him to come to Parallel Society to our event in Lisbon. So we're still working through that, and maybe it's a possibility. We'll have to see. But I do recommend that anybody who's not familiar with him follow his work. Again, thank you, Mariana, for your work there and all that you've done for the community and for Logos Network and Logos Circles. I'm going to just take a beat here, maybe take a moment to reset the room. For any of you guys who are just joining us, this is Logo Circles. We are regularly every week getting together to share information that's coming down the pipeline of the Logo Circles network, and also to introduce you to any new leads or any new circles that emerge, and then just have a little bit of a chit chat or a powwow about what's happening with each different circle. So right now we're in the conversation discussion phase of this talk. We'll probably go for about another 45 minutes or so. So we have a good leeway to have a discussion, and you guys are welcome to come up. This is a community-based space, and I want to give anyone else who wants to say something at this time. I think Chair has his hand up here, and then we'll continue the conversation. Yes, hello, friend.
Hey, I think to piggyback off of the Derek Bro's inspiration and motivation for his event, I think one of the most important things that can come out of circles is coordinating the essential human necessities via the uncensorable, unstoppable tech. The most important thing that stands out to me at this time is food distribution, connecting the producers and the consumers, hopefully at a local level, but that's not always possible. That's a huge milestone in my timeline. I would love to see it happen. We have some producers that are part of the LA circle who are very eager to be plugged into a distribution pipeline. They're less technical, they're not going to build the applications, they are ready to be plugged into the system when it exists. I would encourage others to expand or include those people in their networks. Like the coordination app that we are trying to get built in LA should lend itself directly to the next step of coordinating between producers, consumers. Then there's all sorts of things to consider. But even before considering it, login, connecting people in a certain geographic area or by interest in a way that preserves all the privacy that we need. Because then there are bigger problems to solve beyond that, like the distribution part. And when other services are failing, like there's going to be all sorts of problems that we need to navigate around or solve for, that will require those people in our network. So if anyone has any specific, if anything like that has already happened or those connections have happened in any circles, I would be very interested in hearing about that. And or I would look at those personality profiles in your circles if you can, because once food and water stops, everything else is off the table.
I think the Boston Circle are kind of thinking along similar lines. They were going to farmers markets the last few weeks to do outreach for their circle. So I think this is definitely a very shared feeling amongst them. Yeah, I don't know many other privacy or Web3 companies going to farmers markets to to grow their communities, but yeah, I love that approach.
That's very encouraging to hear. The Boston Circle meeting at the Boston Library, an iconic location, very apt, I think, for the circle to meet there.
Yep, sounds like a perfect spot and a good deal to me. Yeah, listen, guys. There's something that's been weighing on my mind that we mentioned during this discussion. It was when Girl was speaking actually, and I want to rehash that a bit. And if you guys want to take the conversation in a different direction, that's fine. But this is something that is near and dear to my heart, and that we've talked about quite a few times here. But the idea that everything seems out of control in the world, things are really being completely embedded in entropy, in chaos, in seemingly a destructive mode of some sort. But the reality is, and this is what Girl said, is that we have actual hope for creating real change and instigating a paradigm shift of epic proportions in the world that we live in, right? Because the way that I look at it, my friends, is that what we're at as a species, where we're at as a species, is in the midst of a massive transition, right? And there's been a lot of different intellectuals and public speakers and thinkers mention that this is a transitory point in the 21st century where we can either self annihilate as a species or we can transition into a new way of living, of being, of seeing, of acting. And that's the position that I take because we have this beautiful vantage point of seeing the sprouting of all of these different new types of communities all around the world. We see that there's a technological momentum behind technologies that actually protect our privacy and that uplift our lives in a lot of ways that were previously unanticipated, largely thanks to people calling themselves cypherpunks and crypto anarchists. But what this is, what we're embedded in, really is it's like a birthing process, right? It's like we're being midwived from one position of life into another, right? A transition from a stage of adolescence into a stage of adulthood. From the chrysalis springs the butterfly, and this is typically how these kind of transitions happen. It's a metamorphosis, and this is, I think, what we're doing at Logos and these different regenerative sectors of Web3. A lot of these permacultural communities as well, regenerative communities, as they're acting as a springboard for the creation of this new society as these old governance structures begin to dissipate. You know, guys, we had Amir Taki, who's actually going to be at Parallel Society on the space last week, and he was 100% correct in saying that the, what we have now is a massive opportunity related to our technologies, cryptographic wizardry, et cetera, plus our communities to build out a new kind of not only a dark forest, but just a whole new type of community standard that inherently rejects the traditional and the legacy architectures that have worked as systems of oppression since time immemorial. So I really think that we're in a beautiful space right now. And it's not a black pill, right? I think it's very easy for people to get online, to go into these spaces, and to swallow the black pill and to think that there's going to be no hope for the future. So at night they get in bed and they pull the sheets over their head and then they cower in fear. And you know, that's probably an okay or an acceptable reaction if you're really terrified. You don't have the vantage point that we have or a solution. But that's why we have to work really hard to go out there and spread logos, but of this vision or of this mission of understanding that there is hope, there is change, and we get to finally take agency, and we get to be agents in creating and crafting that change in the way that we see fit. This is what Logo Circles is actually all about, reclaiming that lost territory of the mind, of our physical spaces, of our communities, and saying, no, there will be no more control. What there is going to be is us taking back what is like our birthright or our birth heritage, and that is the control over these communities, over our own personal lives, and the connection, the deep connection with nature and with our friends and our family and our neighborhoods and our local communities. So I can't think of a greater time to be alive. I think this is a time to be jubilant, right? To be extremely happy about the direction that we're going, because we can manifest the future that we see fit. And that's what we're actually doing. We're taking this opportunity with the technology and the people and the skills and the ingenuity that we have, and we're using this to push forward into a brighter, better future. This is what has been referred to by a lot of these thinkers in the folks who are thinking about this quote unquote superorganism that is society right now. This is the regenerative effort of our time. And we just have to continue pushing it forward and spreading the good word to as many people as possible. So anyway, I wanted to get on my shoebox for just a bit, but I want to open up the conversation to you guys as well if you have anything to add to that. It's just we have to maintain some degree of positivity as things appear, right? And appearances can be misleading, as things appear to be crumbling all around us. I think that's largely just a sign of that birthing crisis that I mentioned. You know, it is always good. There is something that therapists say. It's always really important to sit in silence and to contemplate your situation in life. I love it so much. So yeah, at any time, any of you guys that want to come up and speak, by the way, I think this is a good point to reset the room. Anyone who wants to come up and speak, this is a community space. You're more than welcome to come up. And because it doesn't have to be a lecture where I just speak, or anyone else who's usually typically up here speaking with me. So it's very much open-ended. I just don't want you guys to be shy or nervous also about coming up. We really want to involve as many people in the community as possible. But alternatively, I am happy to lecture from the pulpit here as usual. Chair.
The idea of people curling up in fear. I would say it's okay to be in the fear state if you can push past it, like Dante, going all through going through all 7 circles and going out the other end is the only way forward. And in one of those circles is extreme fear. But pushing through it to the other side is important. So just don't run back. Run through. It is incredibly shocking that we are in this, that we're at this point as a global society, local country, or your own country might be in its own unique state of chaos, and probably is, as it is for most people in the lower 3 castes of the global caste system, which includes all of us, by the way. So the most inspiring thing, the 2 most inspiring things that are happening in terms of rays of hope is Logos itself, and the technological mission it's building, and the circles that should help to inject the Logos technology like a friendly vaccine into the ecosystem of those local scenes. But this has been well documented. Nothing is hidden. Nothing that is happening now hasn't been well documented, covered, reported on by dozens, hundreds, and thousands of people, or much more. Additionally, there's nothing hidden, almost nothing hidden in this life and in this world at all. And if it is hidden, it's hidden in a book. All you have to do is read it. And usually the book right in front of you, or the one that you have access to, is a good start. I'm not surprised. I'm slightly sad that others are more surprised or shocked or not ready for the phase that we have, or the phase that the earth has entered politically and societally. But I'm not that shocked. A lot of people have covered this very, very well. And throughout my life, even my young life, I was very aware that the system that we are participating in is fragile, if not fucked up, if not unsustainable. And here we are. But fear won't help with anything. Though it's necessary, push through it and then start participating, is my perspective.
Well said, Chair. We have Moo on the stage. I'm going to let you speak just a moment. I just want to return a comment there, Chair. I really like what you had to say. The situation too, the first thing I want to do is give props to all the people who are in the space, and the new folks who have maintained and stayed with us throughout the entirety of the space, and the OGs who have been here. Because listen, what we're in is what we're embedded in is not only a quote unquote attention economy, right? That's a little bit of a misnomer. That people are out there, influencers are out there trying to get your attention, but what we're really embedded into, especially in these online spaces, is an attention hijacking economy, right? Where the algorithm attempts to spike your dopamine and your cortisol, speaking of fight or flight, and get you focused in on black pills, uh, pornographic nonsense, other kinds of really wild rabbit holes, conspiratorial quote unquote rabbit holes online, by design, so that it can create a machine, put you in a machine-like state of comatose numbness, which I think really is a tragedy. So folks coming in and actually having a conversation and being like open-minded and thinking about this stuff, especially with regard to how Logos is helping remedy the current situation online and offline within the context of circles and rebuilding civic society, is crucial for helping people snap out of that really comatose situation that they're in. And I'm not trying to say this in a derogatory manner, to these folks. The system, as it has architected itself inside and outside, it is built to maintaining a kind of passive stupor among the vast swaths of the population. And so trying to come out of that takes a tremendous effort. And really, it's almost like a Jungian hero's journey. It's a heroic effort. So I want to thank all you guys. You reminded me of that, Chair, by the way. I want to thank all you guys who have come into this space, have maintained it, and helped build this community, because really it's a community that works to protect itself and insulate itself. That quote unquote helpful vaccine that Chair mentioned, from a really wicked, in a lot of ways, not only consumer society, but paralysis society is the way that I would describe it. So here we are, this beautiful group of human beings, and it's growing too, right? It's all like more and more people are starting to come out of it. Logos community is definitely a big piece of this, but anyone working within the context of the regenerative ecosystem is also deeply involved and enmeshed in this. Cool. So we have Moo up on the stage. Welcome. I believe you've been on the stage before. Correct me if I'm wrong. Welcome.
Hi, Hi, Sterling. No, I haven't actually. This is my first time speaking. I just wanted to say hello. My full name is Muriel. Mu is my nickname, and I just wanted to express some gratitude for this community. It's I'm thrilled to have discovered it. Sterling, you gave a talk at Edge City. That's how I discovered this, and it's dipping in like every day basically, and it's incredibly inspiring. So I'm excited to get stuck into this community and to hopefully meet a lot of you over the coming months, whatever. Yeah, so just thank you. That's all. That's all I wanted to say.
Oh, I had no idea that it was you, Muriel. Good to see you again. I remember clearly. Thanks for being part of the community now, and thanks for coming to that particular circles talk that we had as well. Appreciate you very much. If you're able, and I think maybe we already discussed this, but you're more than welcome to also join us in Lisbon if you were able to. I'm not sure that you are, but
Yeah, it's a bit of a flight from Cape Town at short notice. Unfortunately, not this year, but almost certainly next year if it's happening again.
yeah, no worries at all. Totally understandable. And we're happy to keep you in the loop and help you out locally in Cape Town there if you need it. You know, whatever kind of issues you're facing, that's what we're here for.
Thank you. I'm excited. We'll chat some more for sure.
Sweet. Chair? Maybe a glitched hand.
Yeah. That's a glitch hand. But thank you to whoever to our. Oh, they're gone. Well, thank you anyway. Yeah, no, that was a glitch hand.
Yep, no worries whatsoever. Cool. Well, guys, I think we are still okay. Do another little bit of a reset here, because we had a few new folks come into the space, and we've had folks coming in and out. This is Logo Circles. We've been discussing, well, we've discussed Logo Circles, what they are, provided some context. For anybody who is new and hasn't been in here since we discussed and described that, please reach out to us, and we're happy to talk more about it. We also welcome you to come and join our spaces anytime. We are currently right now talking about the status quo. We're having a conversation about the world that we live in, and that we don't have to take the black pill. We don't have to be doomers. We can leverage not only our technologies, our privacy preserving technologies, our anonymity enhancing technologies, our decentralized technologies, our coordination technologies. But we can also leverage people power, the power of our communities, to rectify and remedy various kinds of issues that our communities are facing. For instance, Girl here is helping work and develop technology to help domestic abuse survivors in Porto. We have one of the. It's good to mention this. We haven't mentioned it this time. We actually had a success story where in Africa we were able to raise funds through a Logo Circles for, and this is in Zanzibar, for an educational institute that required technology for kids that they needed for their education. So we raised funds for those children, or that Logo Circles did, and was able to rectify that institutional failure as a result. And we're still on the ground there. We have folks locally who are working toward looking to take that to the next step. And I think this is a good time too to remind folks that some of these issues, I don't think we've discussed this yet, some of these issues that we may be working on locally in these communities, they may seem relatively small or minor to some people, but this is what these situations are, what these quote unquote issues are representative of a greater systemic failure that's happening not only in those local institutions, but is really developed into the legacy cultural apparatus that exists all around the world. And this is another kind of conversation to get into, but what I think these legacy institutions, the reason that these problems start to exist is because of the zero sum game dynamics, right? This is game theory. For those of you not familiar, these are just like lose lose dynamics where the individuals involved in these institutions are really optimizing for their own benefit at the expense of everybody else. This means that if there's an opportunity for them to become corrupted, right, and to not do the right thing with the money that they have appropriated or have been given, then what happens is those people do the wrong thing because that's how the incentives are structured within those communities. You see, the incentives are absolutely and irrevocably perverse in that context. But with the help of our local communities and the awareness, we can actually go in and help remedy these issues by doing the right thing and providing for these communities. And check this out, we also have the help of our technologies like blockchain, the ability to be public and or private when necessary to help ensure the proper allocation of funding in communities. We can also ensure that everything can be transparent when necessary, right? Especially for like a public good. So this is something that we should all be very proud of, that we have the ability. And I don't think the full, this is a technological discussion. I don't think the full scope of blockchain technology and cryptocurrency, even within the context of DeFi or within DAOs, has really been unleashed locally. We've heard a lot of really good stories about how these communities have helped. There used to be, this is something I just remembered. I had actually misremembered it because it's actually valuable and it may be still happening. I remember the Bitcoin Cash community had a program or a project called BCH Eat. I believe that was in Latin America where they were actually using Bitcoin Cash to help with impoverished populations in Latin America. Can't remember the specific country, but I do remember that people have been working, and that was a good long while ago, probably 5 years ago when that, or more, 7 years ago when that was originally booted up. So it's good to see that those efforts and those initiatives now have more of a even more of a strategic bent with Logos, where we're working with local communities, purposely trying to resolve and solve a lot of these most vexing and pressing issues. So really, really great stuff. Want to making sure none of you guys have any comments or any direction that you want to take the conversation. By the way, we've been going for about an hour and 10 minutes, probably have another 20 minutes on the clock that we can dedicate to this space. And certainly love holding these spaces because it's good we have people like Muriel who have been involved in the community through some outlet, or they came to a talk and now they're really interested in everything that we're working on and building toward. And I think that's amazing sign of progress that we have in this space, because listen, this isn't just about us getting together and building technology. As we've been saying, this is also about remedying these social failures and these governance failures worldwide. And even no matter, I think something that ends up happening, and this was a bit of an insight to me too, is that even in these first world countries where everybody thinks that they live in a culture of convenience. Uh-oh. That was abrupt. Nice. So everybody lives in these cultures of convenience, right, where they feel like they have they're having their needs met within this context, and but really these are very extractive cultures that tend to sap the spirit and the vitality of the individual and their communities, because the focus moves away from the importance of the local community and instead moves to being a provider to these elite structures, right? Whether that's government or whether that's some kind of corporation or whether it's the oligarchic control apparatus that's combined together. So, looking to retrain that focus on these local communities has to be one of the most important projects of humanity in the modern era, right? Because if we're not focused locally, then what we're doing is we're just losing our power to potential grifters and extractors and exploiters. And that's not the situation that we want to be in. And this is also why I think people are finally saying enough of this. Uh, I mean, this was the whole point of Bitcoin, right? Originally thinking about its cypherpunk intentions. I mentioned this a lot, but the Genesis block had a political statement. Uh, Chancellor on the brink of second bailout. That is not a lackadaisical milquetoast term, right? Those words are not spoken lightly. It is to say that this technology is created for the purpose of radical social transformation, to create more freedom, more liberty, more spirit. And I think obviously there's a laissez-faire part of it, right, where there's an open market where people can work together. But the reality is it's more about refinding and rekindling that original human impetus to be free, to have connection, and to not feel like an automaton or some type of drone worker for whatever kind of company or whatever kind of government in those communities, right? Because this was the whole Prussian model of education, right? Think about the Prussian model of education was originally developed for the purpose of making sure that the children are educated to become uh, perfect candidates for military service and for working in the context of the factory. It was never about education. Speaking of Derek Bros, if you guys have not watched, he created this phenomenal piece of work. And I think that it's really probably underrated right now. I think it needs to be more spread around, but it's a documentary called The Pyramid of Power. And the very first episode is on education and our educational systems. I highly recommend you guys go back and check out that whole series. It's really illuminating and it elucidates and clarifies a lot of the situation that we find ourselves in. Open to thoughts and conversation. If not, happy to keep happy to keep the lecture going.
Sterling, have you read Bowling Alone yet?
So, by the way, that's a very thick book. I have read parts of it, but certainly not all of it.
Yeah, I'm looking at. I bought it and it's stopped and started with it. Sorry, I have the echo again. 1 sec. I've started and stopped on it, but I've landed on chapter, where is it? 9. Against the Tide, Small Groups, Social Movements, and the Net. So there's about 146 pages to get through before it starts becoming quite relevant to circles specifically.
So, sorry, what chapter was that?
Chapter 9, page 147. Against the Tide, Small Groups, Social Movements, and the Net. And that seems to be where things heat up in the text. And don't worry if you had to skip, because there's 500 more pages after that. I'm going to dive into it today, actually. And so during our next conversation, I'll have some takeaways. And if anyone wants to join me in that endeavor, chapter 9 of Bowling Alone.
By the way, that's it's kind of funny. All right, children, can we all please, speaking of Prussian education, can we all please open up our Bowling Alone textbook and turn to page 148 and highlight the section B?
We can't discard all of the useful methods and techniques. Not all of the Prussian education system is broken. The techniques work. It's the objectives and the outcomes that are fucked up. We just need to point them at better outcomes. We don't need to destroy it. We just build on top of it. Shout out Concept Country.
I love this. This is why we love this space so much. We just can go ham with just complete off the wall random thoughts. But yes, I have the book in front of me too. I think because I have not read chapter one or sorry, page 148, chapter 9, Against the Tide, Small Group Social Movements in the Net. And this is all about rekindling civic society in this piece. So he's starting to get into like some of the solution space, it looks like, as well. Probably also the fact that some aspects of the net have taken away from civic society. Would imagine where he's going to go with this as well. But yeah, I'm gonna definitely dive more into the book. Too many books, too little time.
Yeah, recently this weekend I moved my personal library from where it was back to me, so I have access to all of my favorites again, which is nice and fun.
What are your favorites, by the way? Like top 3 books.
Oh, of all times? Oof.
Maybe you can do top 5.
Okay, as a younger man, this was incredibly influential on me, and just because I'm looking at it, Be Here Now, Ram Dass, in terms of quieting my mind a bit and making sense of things. Randomly, not randomly because it has influenced me a lot, but Strike-Based Jiu-Jitsu by Javier Vasquez, I'm also looking at, and that's definitely in my type 5. If we're talking about influence, Stealing Worlds, this is not necessarily a top 5 all time, but in 2017, Carl Schroeder released Stealing Worlds. It's still the very best, and 2016, 2015, but it's the absolute best fiction writer that I've ever seen grasp the idea of the EVM and what is possible with it, with that technology, and it's an incredible fiction. Stealing Worlds, I do encourage you to read. I read that about 3 years ago. To go in a completely different direction, Ace on the River by Barry Greenstein, if you are a poker player, is essential reading. It's hard to pick. I don't know. I want the most influential book that I have read is probably, I don't know, it's so fucking cliche, but it's 1984. It's Orwell's 1984. I read it as a freshman in high school. It was completely revolutionary. That was the year that 9/11 happened. September of that year was 9/11, and to be reading 1984 as during the immediate aftermath of 9/11 left an impression on me that, that lasts and continues. And I have to do a special shout out. It's categorized as like a young adult fiction. I think that's absolute bullshit. But Orson Scott Card, the entire Ender's Game series, not just the first book, but all 7 of them are fucking incredible. Specifically, Speaker for the Dead is the second installment, which specifically gets into AGI and AI life. And the character Jane makes her appearance, and that's another way so far ahead of its time, as I think that was written in the late 80s. And I'm trying to not pick the douchey heady stuff. So there's my list.
I want to pick some of the douchey heady stuff as well. No, I love your list.
All right, I have the complete Shakespeare Globe Theater.
Nice.
That 1,500 page fucking. That's a good one too for
Bro,
reference.
I mean, Hamlet's one of the greatest pieces of literature to exist, in my opinion. It's definitely got to be up there on the list. By the way, I just want to contextualize with everyone how this is related to what we're working on. So I think being part of Logos and Logos circles and being part of these communities also means that there's going to be a lot of desire for self-learning, right? Especially as it concerns finding solutions to problems, but also doing understanding and analyzing a lot of the issues that we find ourselves contending with, not only globally, but especially locally. And just me personally, this is just me personally, friends. I think being well read and reading and caring about books is really important, not just for the learning piece, but also to help eject yourself from the dopaminergic, hijacking, reward systems that we find online and all the brain rot and all the intellectual cancer that tends to circulate on the web. So I think that's one of the reasons that we can have this conversation and talk about books and actually be proud to do it. And that's not to say that you absolutely have to read. I think there's a lot of people who call themselves quote unquote info junkies, right? They're online and they're getting a lot of their information. They're reading quality content. But really, I think part of it too, if you do a lot of reading, like book reading, it puts you in a position to be able to parse certain kinds of information that, like, a person who doesn't do book reading probably would uh, struggle with a little bit more, especially if they're not doing info junkie stuff and they're not involved in like the countercultural trends, etc. Okay, so I'll give my book list also real quick, and if anybody else wants to play this game of Chair and I, you're welcome to come up and do it. Okay, so the book that has influenced me and inspired me the most is Terrence McKenna's The Archaic Revival. For anybody who likes to really think about the possibilities of where we're going in the future, that book is a book on futurism par excellence. Gets really zany, especially talking about DMT trips and self-dribbling basketballs that you experience on, on a DMT trip. But the book is phenomenal. So that's the first one. Speaking of sci-fi, and not into the heady stuff, but it's difficult to read. So Neuromancer by William Gibson, which really, I think he's the first guy to coin the term cyberspace. That's a fantastic read, although it's not an easy read by any stretch of the imagination. It's very jarring, and there's a lot of language that is difficult to contextualize in what's going on, but nonetheless, a phenomenal sci-fi read. The other thing that I would mention that's a really good Pierre Teilhard de Chardon's book, The Phenomenon of Man or The Phenomenon of Humanity. If you want to learn about evolution, evolutionary theory from a process philosophy perspective, and a futuristic oriented metaphysics, metaphysics just meaning what's happening in the realm of life beyond the physical reality, highly recommend reading that book. It's a very optimistic outlook on the future. And Chardon, even though he's very technical and it's really heady, he's ultimately about love and thinking about how love manifests in matter and materiality and into the future of where we're headed as a species. It's an extremely optimistic read, and it really invigorates me every time that I read it and take a look at it. The other book is a more recent one, and I keep reading different parts of it. It is extremely intellectual, but it is very readable and accessible. I think it's called Process and Event by Alexander Bard, a relatively new book. It's a giant tome, but the concepts in the book and the way the guys think about where we're headed, very futuristically oriented, is really good. And the other thing, bringing it back down a little bit, that is a good companion piece to Chair's recommendation for 1984 is Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. I think that a lot of the concepts in Brave New World speak even more accurately to what's going on in our modern time. In Brave New World, Huxley talks about the idea of a population being completely addicted to what he calls in the book soma, right? So it's like a drug that puts a person in a stupor where they're just following all the rules. What's that sound like? So not only is that happening kind of literally with the psychiatric industrial complex in the modern age, but it's also happening now technologically with these variable reward schedules that data data a sorry when I said data I meant AI. So what AI is using to hijack your reward and pleasure centers on the brain, that very much is the soma of the modern age. So there's a few different ways this has actually come to full fruition. I think Huxley was way ahead of his time when he wrote Brave New World. Brave New World, by the way, is probably a bit more challenging to read than 1984 because Brave New World is written for a bit more of an intellectual. By the way, Huxley also wrote a book. Huxley's one of my favorite writers too, by the way. If you're interested in a book that speaks to the possible positive outlook on future societies, he's got a book that's not talked about as much called Island. That is also a really great read. So anything that Aldous Huxley has written, I think that you should go out there and try to experiment with his work. He was writing largely in the 1960s. And by the way, just a little factoid about Huxley. On his deathbed, he had his wife intravenously inject LSD, and it was alleged that the very last thing that he said on his deathbed was "beautiful," and that was it. So, really, really great works, that a really great body of literature and intellectual work that Huxley put out. Highly recommended.
It's really interesting. It's become beyond a pet peeve for me, the default canned response, and I'm not calling anybody out, because I certainly don't read as much as I would like to, for one reason or another. But the blanket statement of "I don't read" is completely unacceptable. And, you know, you can get overly spiritual or metaphysical about things. And you don't want to always see a sign in everything or see an omen in everything, so on and so forth. But the books you surround yourself with, the books that you come across, there's great synchronicity in that. Sometimes opening a book to a random spot can be more informative and intellectually satisfying than a deep study and than a deep planned research study with a bunch of pre-planned documents or text. I don't know. I don't know. I want to encourage people to pick that habit back up, or to start it now while you can, and to cherish your books. Pick your favorites. I did think it was. I always thought it was corny as a younger person when I would go hang out with their friend Mark Twain. Who's overrated? Well, that's a different. But you know what's not overrated is the what's it called? What did he call it? Joan of Arc. Twain's Joan of Arc story is incredible. He loved Joan of Arc so much he used a double pseudonym because it was such a personal story to him that he put too much of himself into it and he needed to hide behind a double pseudonym. Apparently, he went to France and researched the actual historical evidence thoroughly before he wrote that book. But anyway, developing relationships with authors. Well, you can see that I have an adversarial relationship developed with Twain. What's with all the pseudonyms, Samuel? Anyway, it's not, I don't think it's a coincidence that through the Prussian system that we just discussed a bit or touched on, that of all things, the actual skill of reading and the practice of reading has been removed while all of the other elements of the schooling has remained. I think it's very, in general, I think it's a worthy and noble cause to undertake, to pick back up yourself and to encourage others to do so. And if you can influence, especially young people, to read, I think it would do a lot of good if we can somehow make it happen as well, rather than just bloviate. I got it in.
Oh yeah, that's the key word. Every day, bloviate. Yeah, I love that. By the way, I think so, I'll mention this, then we'll start working on closing up. With regard to education and the Prussian system, I feel like the school system creates an environment where they actually make children reading adverse, right? Because they try to force feed you all these different books. I remember it kind of a funny story. It's ironic, but I remember doing like an accelerated reader program when I was in high school, and they tried to get me to read at the time Huxley, but I was way too young to like internalize that and understand at the time the full implications of that book. So it actually made me for a while not want to read that. Luckily, I did. I was the type of person who is naturally rebellious and like anti-cultural. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was just reading my own books instead of what was prescribed by the reading the accelerated reader program. So I was reading like Tolkien, right, Lord of the Rings, and I remember reading what's his name, Terry Brooks's work, which is the Shannara series, I think, which is very derivative also. So I read a lot of fantasy, but most of my reading then, when I was young, it definitely was stimulating, but I think a lot of it was also escapism. And I'm not going to say that there's certainly something to be said about people who want to read, even for if it's to escape. It's certainly better than getting stuck on a dopaminergic trip down some kind of black pilled lane online. So I will I will say that at very least, reading in general a book is probably going to be better than a lot of the other activities we could get stuck in. But by the way, when we have these spaces, please don't read. Just come into the space and unless we have you open up the book, okay, right, to whatever chapter it is, and we just mimic the Prussian education model. Cool. All right, guys. I think I want to offer anybody in the space real quick to make a comment or add any final thoughts before we close up. This has been a lot of fun. We got to talk about, but I mean, this is part of what building community is about, right? We're not just going to get up here every day and just speak specifically about one kind of issue, like in a formal way, like we're at some kind of town hall meeting. Instead, we're just going to be like a normal community. We're going to get together. We're going to have a conversation. The conversation goes where it goes. It flows where it flows naturally, right? And that's just part of it. So cool. Anybody have any thoughts before we close up, or final words? I don't want to say last words. Could be bad.
Yeah, I love you to don't sleep on reading fiction is what I would say. Like I think a lot of times people think it's almost like transactional, like you read a nonfiction book and you learn something and it's like, this achievement, it's done. But in a world where people are struggling to develop empathy, one of the best things that you can do is read fiction and like enjoy a story and take on the character of another. And it can actually really help you to learn the skill of empathy of something you're struggling with. So, yeah, don't sleep on fiction. And if you want to start a circle, if any of these conversations have been inspiring to you and you'd like to kind of take the next step in the Logos community, please reach out. You can go to logos.co and book a call with someone from the Logos team and just have a discussion, get to know each other. And yeah, it can help you on your next steps starting a circle in your local city.
Perfecto. Thanks, Amelia. And I'll second that. Definitely don't sleep on fiction. I slept on fiction for the longest time and always was mostly reading nonfiction. I still mostly read nonfiction if I were to admit a fallibility, but I have been reading more fiction lately, so that's a good thing. Okay, so Odd Name came up. Odd Name has been part of the community for a good while. I want to welcome you to the stage. If you have thoughts, comments, please, by all means. Good to see you.
Hi. Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me quite well because my connection is pretty bad. Is it fine?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. I just wanted to maybe just add a very quick word in the conversation around education and reading. So I can define myself as a professional philosopher, which is a little bit weird, but that's the thing. And the most important book I've ever read in my personal life, and that probably led to this sort of career, and is actually a book I think is both relevant to everybody in like every age bracket, and I think that it's super suitable for children, but it's also a book by Wittgenstein, and it's Remarks on Colors, and I don't know if anybody has read it in this lovely circle, but it's a book I would always recommend to everybody I ever meet for any particular reason. But yeah, I don't know. Has anyone here read the Remarks on Color or heard of it? Nope, I guess.
I think we're gonna take that as a no. I have So I have his investigations, right? I think that's what most people, at least if they're philosophically minded, are probably familiar with. So thank you for recommending that. I didn't even know about it. Odd name.
Yeah, I think it's a small book and it's not that well known, and it's very particular in the sense that it talks about the nature of color, the idea, the very concept of like color leading to, of course, the concept of perception, and what it is to understand things and to communicate with words and to agree on things, and like the very nature of colors. I don't have it just like next to me right now because it's just full of amazing quotes, but he would talk a lot about the nature of white as a different color to all the other colors, and like the cloudiness of white, and like all colors maybe never dissolve apart from white that becomes cloudy. And yeah, there's like a lot of metaphors we can also use about darkness and all of that. But yeah, I don't know, I just wanted to mention it quickly.
No, I think that's extremely valuable. Thank you, Oddname. I mean, just a few comments on that before we officially close up. The interesting thing about color, generally speaking, is that it represents an aspect, a mysterious aspect of our own consciousness as human beings, right? Because color is not like a thing in and of itself. It's really so. What happens is light, it enters our eyes and then is transformed, right, or transduced by the brain
Yeah.
as right, as just data points, and then we experience color as an experience that we feel internally, right? It's like almost like a feeling, which is really interesting. It's this in like consciousness research, David Chalmers refers to this as qualia, the like innate experiences that we have, and he uses color as a primary example. That's what that made me think of, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just like the way be grasped on by little kids or every adult or everybody is just like stunning to me, and it doesn't cease to amaze me every time I come up on the book. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Oddname. By the way, you're welcome to come up in any of our conversations and chat whenever you want, my friend. I feel like you have a lot of value to add.
Yes, thank you. I will.
Cool. All right, my friends, we've gone over the mark. We have passed the event horizon. We have entered the black hole. We're experienced the density. Okay, so I want to thank everyone first of all who joined us to come up here and converse and to be part of this conversation, especially the circles leads and everyone involved in Logos circles directly. So Chair, Amelia, Mariana, we had Fran who's up here as well. We had Girl up here chatting earlier. So thank you all, you guys, for being part of this community and dedicating yourselves to forming these circles and pushing these local initiatives forward with such passion. I also want to thank all the OGs who have been in this space since the very beginning and who are really a hard-boiled part of this community. So we have up here RGM, we have Parsival, we have Pascal. These guys are actually circles leads, I'm pretty sure. There's going to become so many that I'm not even going to remember them all. So we have OW, who's OG part of the community, Tiger, Matthew, good friends of mine as well. So we have Lalo in here, and we also have and Cecilia's in here as well, D Clinch. Thank you guys so much. And anyone who's new to this community and these spaces, I hope you find a lot of value in what we're doing around Logo circles and rebuilding community. We do have community-based conversations, as you saw. Sometimes sometimes it be like that, right? Sometimes we're going to go down a path where we just get to know each other and we get to learn. That's also part of community building. It is what it means to be human. You know, it's kind of funny to think that some part of that may have been lost down the line as well. Sometimes we just have to find areas where we can reconnect and rediscover each other. And I think that's a big part of rebuilding civic society. Sometimes it's maybe not talked about enough, but we're going to talk about it here at Logos. So thank you guys for being part of this. Let's keep this mission moving forward. Let's keep the vision in mind. Remember, this is a birthing crisis that we're experiencing as a humanity, and we're just helping midwife the human species into the next stage of evolution. Thank you so much. Make sure you stay frosty out there. Use your privacy tools. Use your anti-surveillance tools. Make sure you're taking care of yourself, taking care of your family and your loved ones.